Get your dirty hands off that dress before you stain it. Brad Thornton's voice cuts through the pristine silence of Gucci Beverly Hills like a whip. The pregnant black woman freezes, her fingers still touching the silk fabric of a $20,000 evening gown. Excuse me? Keisha Washington turns slowly, her 7-month belly prominent beneath her simple clothes. You heard me, that dress cost more than your car, hell, more than your house. Brad's eyes scan her dismissively. I'm here to purchase. Purchase? Brad laughs harshly. With what, food stamps? Listen, the McDonald's down the street is hiring if you need work. The words hit like physical blows. Keisha's jaw tightens, but her voice remains steady. I'd like to see your manager. I am the manager, and you're leaving. Now! When she doesn't move, his hand strikes her face with brutal force. Keisha touches her burning cheek, pulls out her phone, and whispers into it, Marcus. Something in her tone makes Brad's blood run cold. What he doesn't know is that he just made the biggest mistake of his life. 48 hours earlier, Brad Thornton's iPhone alarm pierces the silence of his cramped Studio City apartment at 5:30 a.m. The generic white walls and IKEA furniture tell the story of someone still climbing, still reaching for something better. He rolls out of his queen-sized bed, checking his phone for overnight emails from corporate. 3 unread messages wait, including one marked urgent from Regional Director Patricia Hayes. Brad, Q4 numbers are down 12% across the Beverly Hills location. Corporate is reviewing management positions for 2025. Need immediate improvement in sales metrics. Promotion to regional depends on December performance. PH. The message hits like ice water. 8 years of 70-hour weeks. 8 years of smiling at customers who spend more on a handbag than he makes in 6 months. 8 years of watching lesser managers get promoted while he remains stuck in the same golden cage. He screenshots the email, adding it to a folder labeled Motivation that contains 47 similar messages spanning the last 3 years. His morning ritual begins with military precision. 20-minute workout in his living room. Protein shake made with generic powder bought in bulk from Costco. Shower with drugstore shampoo that he'll later cover with expensive cologne samples taken from the store. The irony isn't lost on him. He sells luxury he can't afford, surrounded by wealth that remains perpetually out of reach. The drive to Beverly Hills takes 53 minutes in traffic, giving him time to rehearse conversations with high-value customers. He practices his smile in the rearview mirror, adjusting his expression until it reaches the perfect balance of respectful and confident. The transition from his modest apartment to the gleaming streets of Beverly Hills happens gradually, each mile marking his ascent into a world where he belongs by employment, but not by birth. Gucci Beverly Hills sits like a temple on Rodeo Drive, its floor-to-ceiling windows displaying artifacts of impossible beauty. Brad arrives 30 minutes early, as always, using his security code to disable the alarm system. The silence inside feels sacred, each piece of merchandise arranged with museum-quality precision. He walks the perimeter slowly, adjusting handbags by millimeters, ensuring every surface gleams without fingerprints. The opening checklist takes exactly 27 minutes. Check inventory against yesterday's sales report. Verify cash drawer accuracy. Test security cameras, 12 angles covering every corner, every blind spot eliminated. Review the previous day's customer interaction notes, looking for patterns for opportunities missed. Sarah Carter, his assistant manager, arrives precisely at 8:45. Her punctuality, one of the reasons he trusts her above the other staff. Morning, Brad. Coffee? She holds up a Starbucks cup, the daily peace offering that maintains their professional relationship. Thanks. Did you see Patricia's email? Sarah's expression shifts, understanding immediately. They've worked together long enough for her to read the stress in his posture, the slight tension around his eyes that appears whenever corporate pressure intensifies. The promotion thing? December numbers decide everything. We can't afford any mistakes. The first customers arrive at 10 a.m. sharp. Mrs. Whitmore and her daughter, Beverly Hills royalty, who drop $15,000 without blinking. Brad activates his performance mode, becoming the person these customers expect. Knowledgeable, deferential, invisible until needed. He watches them browse, calculating commission percentages in his head, wondering if their casual purchase will be enough to move his monthly numbers into acceptable territory. By noon, the pattern is established. 6 customers, 4 sales, $38,000 in revenue. Respectable, but not exceptional. During his lunch break, Brad sits in the employee break room scrolling through LinkedIn, reading about former colleagues who've escaped retail management for corporate positions. Mark Thompson now works in luxury brand development. Jennifer Liu moved to corporate buying. Everyone seems to be advancing except him. "You know what the problem is?" he says to Sarah as they prepare for the afternoon shift. "The clientele is changing. People who can't afford to be here, treating this place like a tourist attraction." Sarah looks uncomfortable but doesn't respond. She's learned to navigate Brad's frustrations without commenting on the underlying implications. The afternoon brings a steady stream of browsers, tourists with cameras, young women taking Instagram photos, teenagers whose parents wait impatiently by the door. Each interaction feels like a test of Brad's patience, each just looking another reminder of the gulf between his customers and his prospects. At 3 p.m., he reviews the security footage from the previous week, a habit that's become obsessive. He studies customer behavior, looking for patterns that might explain declining sales. The footage reveals uncomfortable truths, subtle moments when his demeanor shifts based on customer appearance, microsecond judgments that affect his service quality. He tells himself it's about efficiency, about reading which customers are serious buyers versus casual browsers. The employee handbook sits on his desk, open to the section on inclusive customer service excellence. Corporate mandates that all customers receive identical treatment regardless of appearance, background, or perceived purchasing power. Brad has memorized these policies, recited them in training sessions, signed annual acknowledgement forms, but policy and practice diverge in the gray areas, in the split-second decisions that determine who receives the full luxury experience versus polite dismissal. Evening cleanup begins at 7 p.m., after the last customer leaves with a satisfied smile and a Gucci shopping bag. Brad counts the register, balances the books, checks each piece of merchandise against its assigned location. The numbers for today look promising. 67,000 in sales, commission percentages that inch him closer to monthly targets. But it's not enough. It's never enough. His drive home reverses the morning journey, each mile returning him to his modest reality. The apartment feels smaller after spending 10 hours surrounded by marble and gold fixtures. He microwaves dinner while reviewing tomorrow's schedule, planning approaches for customers he's never met, rehearsing responses to objections he can't predict. Before sleep, Brad sets his alarm and checks the corporate email one more time. No new messages, but the morning will bring fresh pressure, new targets, another day of proving his worth to people who see him as replaceable. The promotion to regional represents everything he's worked toward: escape from customer service, elevation to strategy, the respect that comes with making decisions instead of executing them. He closes his eyes, planning tomorrow's performance, unaware that his carefully constructed world is about to encounter a force that will shatter every assumption he's made about power, about control, about the consequences of treating people as less than human. The next morning will bring a customer who doesn't fit his predetermined categories, and the judgment call he makes will transform both their lives in ways he cannot possibly imagine. The morning sun casts geometric shadows through Gucci's floor-to-ceiling windows as Brad adjusts his tie and surveys his domain. Today feels different, charged with possibility. Yesterday's sales figures exceeded expectations, and Patricia Hayes sent a brief but encouraging email. "Keep this momentum. Regional is watching." The words replay in his mind like a mantra as he positions himself behind the marble counter, lord of his temporary kingdom. At 10:47 a.m., Keisha Washington enters the store with the measured gait of someone carrying precious cargo. Her 7-month pregnancy shows prominently beneath a simple black dress, her comfortable flats silent against the polished marble. She pauses just inside the threshold, allowing her eyes to adjust to the carefully orchestrated lighting that makes every piece of merchandise appear divinely illuminated. Brad's trained gaze catalogs her immediately. No designer handbag, no obvious jewelry, clothes that suggest middle-class comfort rather than luxury spending power. His internal calculator runs rapid calculations: likely browser, possible small purchase, probably not worth premium attention. He signals Sarah with a subtle head gesture, their practiced communication indicating she should handle this customer while he focuses on higher-value prospects. Keisha moves through the store with deliberate purpose, her fingers trailing across silk scarves and leather goods with genuine appreciation. She pauses before a display of evening gowns, studying the construction details with an educated eye that recognizes quality craftsmanship. Her hand rests protectively on her belly as she examines a midnight blue creation adorned with hand-sewn crystals. "The beadwork is exquisite," she murmurs to herself, unaware that Brad has positioned himself within listening distance. Sarah approaches with professional warmth. "Good morning. Can I help you find anything specific today?" "I'm looking for something elegant for a charity gala this Saturday, something that accommodates—" Keisha gestures gracefully toward her pregnancy, "my current situation." Brad's interest sharpens. Charity galas represent serious money, the kind of events where his wealthy customers showcase new purchases, but the disconnect between Keisha's appearance and the implied financial commitment triggers his skepticism. He's seen this before. People who attend events above their economic station, renting or borrowing attire they can't afford to purchase. "Our evening collection starts around $8,000, Sarah explains gently, watching for the customer's reaction. "That's fine. I'd like to see what you have in size 12, preferably with some accommodation for maternity needs." Brad steps forward, his territorial instincts activated. This is his store, his commission opportunity, his decision to make about resource allocation. Sarah defers automatically, recognizing the hierarchy that governs their daily interactions. "Ma'am, I should mention that our evening wear requires significant alterations for maternity fitting. The process typically takes 2 to 3 weeks, and Saturday is—" He pauses dramatically, checking his Rolex. 4 days away. Keisha's expression remains composed, but something flickers in her eyes, not embarrassment, but calculation. "I understand the timeline. Money isn't the constraint here." The phrase triggers Brad's defensive mechanisms. In his experience, people who explicitly state that money isn't an issue are usually the ones for whom it's the primary obstacle. Wealthy customers never need to announce their financial capacity. They simply purchase without discussion. "I appreciate your interest, but these pieces require careful consideration. The gown you were examining costs $18,000 plus alteration fees plus rush charges for weekend completion. We're looking at potentially $25,000 for a single evening's wear. I understand the investment." Keisha's voice carries quiet authority that momentarily unsettles Brad's confidence. He decides to test her commitment. "May I see some identification and a credit card? Our policy requires verification for purchases above $15,000. It's a lie. No such policy exists, but Brad has used this tactic before to separate serious buyers from pretenders. Legitimate customers comply without hesitation, while others make excuses or leave quietly. The request serves as his personal filtering system, protecting his time and commission potential from false leads. Keisha opens her purse with deliberate calm, producing a driver's license and a Black American Express Centurion card. The metal card catches the boutique's lighting, its weight and distinctive design immediately recognizable to anyone in luxury retail. Brad's internal calculus shifts violently. Centurion cards require invitation only, minimum annual spending in the hundreds of thousands, approval processes that eliminate all but the most affluent cardholders. He examines both items carefully, searching for signs of forgery or fraud. The license appears authentic. Keisha, Washington, address in Beverly Hills' most exclusive zip code, expiration date 2 years future. The Centurion card shows natural wear patterns consistent with regular use, no obvious tampering or duplication markers. "I'll need to verify this card," Brad announces, his tone carrying more authority than the situation warrants. "Of course." Keisha settles into a nearby chair, her hand automatically moving to support her lower back. The gesture is unconscious, natural, the body language of someone genuinely pregnant rather than performing pregnancy for sympathy or advantage. Brad retreats to his office, ostensibly to process the verification, but actually to recalibrate his approach. The Centurion card represents legitimate wealth, but its presence on someone who doesn't project traditional luxury markers creates cognitive dissonance. His worldview depends on visual cues aligning with economic reality. When they diverge, his training suggests suspicion rather than adaptation. The credit verification returns positive within 30 seconds. Available credit limit, no limit displayed. Recent transaction history, multiple five-figure purchases across luxury retailers in Beverly Hills, New York, and Paris. Payment history, flawless. The data confirms what Brad doesn't want to acknowledge. This customer possesses the financial resources to purchase anything in his store. He returns to find Keisha studying her phone, responding to what appears to be business emails. Her posture and phone manner suggest executive-level responsibility, someone accustomed to making decisions rather than seeking approval. The disconnect between his initial assessment and accumulating evidence creates an uncomfortable tension he chooses to resolve through continued skepticism rather than revised judgment. The card verifies, but I'm concerned about the alteration timeline, he says, returning her identification. These aren't off-the-rack pieces. They require specialized fitting, custom adjustments. Saturday delivery seems unrealistic. Keisha looks up from her phone, and for the first time, Brad glimpses something steel-hard beneath her polite exterior. I'm sure you'll find a way to make it work. The gala is important to me. Something in her tone suggests that what's important to her tends to happen, regardless of obstacles or inconvenience to others. Brad feels the first stirring of genuine unease, as if he's misjudged not just her financial capacity, but something far more fundamental about the power dynamics in this room. The afternoon sun has shifted, casting longer shadows through the boutique windows, and Brad realizes that his comfortable assumptions about customer categories and social hierarchies are about to be tested in ways he never anticipated. The Centurion card sits on Brad's marble counter like a dark mirror, reflecting the boutique's crystal lighting in ways that make him increasingly uncomfortable. He's handled these cards before, perhaps a dozen times in 8 years, and each encounter involved customers whose appearance immediately telegraphed their wealth. Hermes bags, Cartier watches, the subtle markers that announce financial aristocracy before a word is spoken. Keisha Washington possesses none of these visual cues, creating a cognitive dissonance that Brad's rigid worldview cannot easily accommodate. There seems to be an issue with our card processing system today, he announces, his voice carrying the artificial authority of someone manufacturing obstacles. Technical difficulties with high-limit transactions. Keisha's eyebrows rise slightly, the first crack in her composed facade. I see. What would you suggest? The question hangs in the air between them, loaded with implications Brad doesn't yet understand. Her tone remains perfectly professional, but something underneath suggests this isn't the first time she's encountered institutional resistance disguised as technical problems. Perhaps you could provide a secondary form of payment, or we could schedule the purchase for when our systems are fully operational. Brad watches carefully for signs of the frustration he expects, the telltale fidgeting, the defensive explanations about credit limits, the gradual retreat that confirms his suspicions about her financial authenticity. Instead, Keisha reaches into her purse and produces a second card, Platinum American Express, followed by a Chase Sapphire Reserve, then a Goldman Sachs private client card that Brad has never seen in person. Will any of these work with your system? She asks mildly. The array of premium credit cards creates an uncomfortable tableau on his counter. Each represents significant wealth, exclusive access, the kind of financial profile that should make him immediately deferential. Yet their presence on someone who doesn't conform to his visual expectations triggers deeper resistance rather than acceptance. The issue isn't the specific card, Brad improvises, his lie becoming more elaborate. It's the processing threshold. Corporate has implemented new security protocols for transactions above 20,000, enhanced verification requirements. Keisha shifts in her chair, one hand supporting her lower back while the other rests on her pregnant belly. The movement draws attention to her condition, emphasizing her vulnerability in this moment of manufactured difficulty. Any reasonable person would offer assistance, suggest she sit more comfortably, perhaps bring water or adjust the air conditioning. Brad notices her discomfort but interprets it as weakness rather than a call for basic human decency. What verification do you need? She asks. Employment documentation, recent tax returns, bank statements showing sufficient liquidity. The standard protocols for high-value purchases. Each requirement is fabricated, designed to create barriers that will encourage her departure. No luxury retailer demands tax returns for credit card purchases. The protocols he describes exist only in his imagination, weapons deployed to protect his time and commission potential from customers who don't meet his arbitrary standards. Keisha pulls out her phone and begins typing with swift efficiency. Should I have my accountant send the documents directly, or would you prefer I handle the transfer myself? The response deflates Brad's strategy. Customers who possess accountants willing to produce same-day documentation occupy rarefied financial territory. His manufactured obstacles are being met with resources he didn't anticipate, solutions that suggest depth of wealth rather than surface pretension. That won't be necessary, he says quickly, realizing his deception has reached its sustainable limit. Let me check with the corporate about expediting the verification process. He retreats to his office again, ostensibly to make official inquiries, but actually to regroup and develop a new approach. Through the glass partition, he watches Keisha respond to what appears to be urgent business communications. Her phone manner projects executive authority, brief, decisive responses that suggest others wait for her decisions rather than the reverse. The contradiction between her modest appearance and obvious professional importance creates frustration rather than enlightenment. Sarah approaches his office door, her expression concerned. Brad, is everything okay with that customer? She seems legitimate to me. I'm handling it, he responds curtly, dismissing her observation. Sarah's judgment, while generally sound, lacks his years of experience reading customers. She sees surface politeness where he recognizes deeper patterns of deception and social climbing. When he returns to the showroom, Keisha has moved to examine other pieces, her attention focused on a collection of handbags that represent the store's highest margin items. She handles each piece with appreciation for craftsmanship details that casual browsers typically miss: the hand-stitching quality, the leather grain consistency, the hardware weight and finish. Her evaluation process suggests genuine expertise rather than performance. These are beautiful, she comments, examining a limited edition piece. Artisanship is exceptional. That particular bag has a waiting list, Brad interjects. It's reserved for our established clientele. Another lie deployed reflexively. The bag sits available for immediate purchase, but Brad's territorial instincts drive him to create artificial scarcity. In his experience, exclusivity tests reveal true buying intentions. Serious customers push back against restrictions, while pretenders accept dismissal gracefully. I understand, Keisha replies. Perhaps you could add me to the waiting list? Her response again defies his expectations. Instead of challenging the restriction or providing credentials that would justify special treatment, she accepts the process and requests inclusion. The reaction suggests someone accustomed to luxury retail protocols, familiar with waiting lists and allocation systems that govern high-end purchases. That would require establishing a purchase history first, Brad continues, adding layers to his fictional barriers. The waiting list prioritizes customers with significant annual spending. Keisha's phone buzzes with an incoming call. She glances at the screen, and for the first time, her composure shifts slightly. Not toward stress or anxiety, but toward the focused attention that indicates important business requiring immediate response. Excuse me, I need to take this, she says, moving toward the boutique's entrance for privacy. Brad watches through the window as she conducts what appears to be a complex business negotiation. Her body language projects confidence and authority, hand gestures that emphasize key points, facial expressions that suggest she's providing direction rather than receiving instruction. The conversation lasts several minutes, and when she returns, something subtle has changed in her demeanor. I apologize for the interruption, she says. Business doesn't always respect personal schedules. What kind of business? Brad asks, his curiosity finally overcoming his pretense of disinterest. Keisha smiles for the first time since entering the store, and the expression contains depths that make Brad suddenly inexplicably nervous. The kind that values efficiency and respects people's time. The words carry weight beyond their surface meaning, as if she's delivering a message rather than making conversation. Brad feels an uncomfortable shift in the room's dynamic, as though the power balance he's assumed throughout their interaction might not be what he believed. Outside, afternoon traffic begins building on Rodeo Drive, The familiar rhythm of Beverly Hills commerce continuing obliviously while inside the boutique, forces neither participant fully understands are aligning toward an inevitable collision. The atmosphere in Gucci Beverly Hills has grown thick with unspoken tension, like the heavy air before a thunderstorm. Brad's manufactured obstacles have created a standoff that neither participant seems willing to abandon. Keisha stands near the evening gown display, her hand resting on her pregnant belly, while Brad positions himself between her and the merchandise like a guard protecting sacred relics from unworthy hands. Sarah watches from behind the accessories counter, her discomfort growing with each passing minute. 8 years of working retail have taught her to recognize dangerous customer interactions, moments when pride and prejudice override common sense in customer service training. The current situation exhibits all the warning signs of an incident that will require damage control, corporate notifications, and potentially legal review. Her instincts scream at her to intervene, but Brad's hierarchical authority keeps her frozen in place. "Ma'am, I think we've reached an impasse here," Brad announces, his voice carrying the finality of someone who believes he holds ultimate authority. "Our verification processes are quite thorough, and rushing them would compromise our security protocols." The lie flows smoothly from his lips, polished by years of practice in creating barriers for customers he deems unworthy. He's perfected the art of institutional gatekeeping using corporate language to mask personal prejudices, transforming discrimination into policy enforcement. Keisha turns slowly, and something in her movement suggests a decision has been reached. Not the frustrated retreat Brad expects, but a shift toward a different kind of engagement altogether. Her posture straightens despite her pregnancy, projecting an authority that seems to emerge from some deep reservoir of confidence that Brad has consistently underestimated. "I understand you have procedures," she says, her voice maintaining its professional calm. "But I also understand when those procedures are being selectively applied." The accusation hangs in the air like a challenge, cutting through Brad's pretense with surgical precision. He feels heat rising in his chest, the familiar anger that surfaces when his authority is questioned by people who don't understand the complexity of his position. He spent 8 years mastering the delicate balance of luxury retail, learning to navigate between corporate demands and customer expectations, developing instincts that separate serious buyers from time wasters. "I don't appreciate the implication," he responds, his professional mask slipping slightly. "I treat all customers according to the same standards. Do you?" Keisha's question carries the weight of someone who has observed his interactions throughout the morning, cataloging the differential treatment that Brad considers normal business practice. She's watched him defer to other customers with obvious wealth markers, seen the immediate service and respectful attention they received without question or verification. Through the boutique's windows, other customers pass on Rodeo Drive, their shopping bags and casual expressions testament to successful retail experiences elsewhere. Mrs. Whitmore exits Harry Winston with a smile and a distinctive shopping bag, having completed a transaction that probably exceeded Keisha's intended purchase by several multiples. The contrast couldn't be sharper. 2 very different retail experiences occurring within the same luxury corridor. "Ma'am, I'm going to have to ask you to leave," Brad says, his voice rising slightly as his control over the situation continues to deteriorate. "You're disrupting other customers." The store contains no other customers. The lie is transparent, desperate, revealing the extent to which Brad's rational judgment has been compromised by his need to maintain control over a situation that increasingly defies his understanding. His territorial instincts have transformed customer service into a power struggle that he's determined to win at any cost. "I'm not disrupting anyone," Keisha replies calmly, her composure contrasting sharply with Brad's growing agitation. "I'm trying to make a purchase." "A purchase you clearly can't afford," Brad snaps, his filter finally failing completely. "This isn't a place for people like you to play pretend." The words escape before his professional training can contain them, revealing the prejudices that have guided his behavior throughout their interaction. Sarah audibly gasps from across the store, recognizing the legal and professional catastrophe Brad has just created. Customer discrimination based on race represents grounds for immediate termination, civil liability, and corporate crisis management that could destroy careers and damage brand reputation. Keisha's expression doesn't change, but something shifts in her eyes. Not anger, but a kind of cold recognition. She's heard these words before, faced these assumptions in boardrooms and business meetings, learned to navigate a world where her appearance triggers judgments that her accomplishments contradict. The familiar sting of prejudice washes over her, but underneath runs a current of something harder, more dangerous. "People like me?" she asks quietly, each word measured and deliberate. Brad realizes his mistake but doubles down rather than retreating, his pride preventing the apology that might salvage the situation. 8 years of retail frustration, corporate pressure, and economic anxiety crystallize into this moment of absolute authority over someone he perceives as powerless. People who don't belong in establishments like this. People who think they can fake their way into circles above their station. His voice grows louder, more aggressive, feeding off his perceived dominance in the interaction. The accusation echoes through the marble-floored boutique, amplified by the acoustics designed to showcase luxury goods rather than contain ugly confrontations. Sarah moves closer, her instincts telling her to intervene before the situation escalates beyond recovery, but her employment status keeps her silent. "Brad, maybe we should," she begins tentatively. "Stay out of this, Sarah," he orders, his authority over his employee providing the last refuge for his wounded ego. "I'm handling this situation." Keisha steps forward, not aggressively but with the measured movement of someone who has reached the limits of her patience. Her pregnancy makes the gesture even more powerful, emphasizing the vulnerability of someone who should be receiving protection rather than harassment. The image creates a striking tableau, a pregnant woman facing down institutional prejudice in a temple of luxury consumption. "You have no idea who you're talking to," she says, her voice carrying a warning rather than a threat. "I know exactly who I'm talking to," Brad responds, his anger overriding every instinct for self-preservation. "Someone who thinks showing up with fake credit cards and attitude will get her respect she hasn't earned." The accusation of fraud crosses a legal line that transforms their interaction from poor customer service into potential defamation. Sarah recognizes the shift and pulls out her phone, not to call security, but to document what she increasingly believes will require corporate legal review. The situation has moved beyond customer service recovery into crisis management territory. Keisha reaches into her purse and produces her phone, scrolling to a contact that makes her expression soften slightly. For a moment, her professional armor drops, revealing the woman beneath, pregnant, tired, dealing with hormones and physical discomfort, while trying to accomplish a simple shopping task that has become a battlefield over basic human dignity. "I'm going to make a phone call," she announces with quiet authority. "When I'm finished, you're going to wish you had treated me with basic human decency." Brad laughs, a sound devoid of humor and filled with contempt. "Lady, I don't care who you think you know. This is my store, my rules, my decision about who gets to shop here." "Your store?" Keisha's eyebrows rise with genuine amusement. "Interesting perspective." She begins dialing, and something about her posture while placing the call triggers alarm bells in Brad's subconscious. This isn't someone calling for support or validation. This is someone activating resources, initiating processes that will have consequences he cannot predict or control. Her body language projects the confidence of someone accustomed to having her calls answered immediately, her requests prioritized, her problems solved efficiently. "Don't waste my time with whatever performance you're planning," Brad says, but his voice carries less conviction than before. When Keisha attempts to move toward the store's entrance for privacy during her call, Brad makes the decision that will define both their futures. He steps directly into her path, using his physical presence to intimidate a pregnant woman into compliance with his arbitrary authority. The gesture represents the ultimate abuse of his positional power, threatening someone in a vulnerable condition to maintain psychological dominance. "You're not going anywhere until we resolve this," he declares, his voice shaking with adrenaline and misplaced righteousness. The confrontation has attracted attention from pedestrians outside, their faces pressed against the boutique's windows as they witness what appears to be harassment of a pregnant customer by store management. Several people pull out phones, recognizing the potential significance of documenting what unfolds next. Sarah realizes that whatever happens will occur under public scrutiny, with witnesses and recording devices capturing every moment for potential social media distribution. Keisha looks up at Brad, her expression shifting from patience to something harder, more final. "Move," she says simply, the word carrying absolute authority. "Make me," Brad responds, the playground taunt revealing how completely his professional judgment has been abandoned in favor of primitive dominance displays. When Keisha takes a step forward, not aggressively, but with the quiet determination of someone who will not be physically intimidated, Brad's hand moves faster than his brain can process consequences. The slap connects with her cheek with a sound that echoes through the boutique like a gunshot, the crack of palm against skin seeming to freeze time itself in a moment of absolute moral clarity. The silence that follows feels eternal, witnessed by Sarah, by pedestrians outside, by security cameras that record everything in digital permanence. Keisha touches her face, feeling the sting spread across her skin, while Brad stares at his own hand as if it belongs to someone else. In that suspended moment, Keisha speed dials Marcus White King and speaks 4 words that will change everything. Someone made a mistake. The 34th floor of Goldman Sachs Tower gleams with the sterile perfection of financial power. Marcus Washington sits behind a curved desk made from a single piece of Brazilian rosewood, his attention divided between 6 monitors displaying real-time market data from around the globe. Numbers cascade in green and red streams, cryptocurrency valuations, forex movements, algorithmic trading patterns that respond to his commands with mechanical precision. At 34, Marcus controls financial networks that most people cannot comprehend. His hedge fund manages $47 billion in assets, but that represents only the visible portion of his empire. Underground, he orchestrates cryptocurrency movements that can destabilize entire national economies, manipulates market sentiment through carefully timed social media campaigns, and maintains relationships with power brokers who prefer to operate in shadows rather than boardrooms. His phone displays 17 missed calls from various business contacts, but when Keisha White King appears on the screen, everything else becomes irrelevant. He answers before the first ring completes, his voice immediately shifting from the calculated coldness he uses with business associates to something warmer, more protective. "Hey, beautiful. How's shopping going? Someone just put their hands on me." The words hit Marcus like ice water in his veins. His body goes completely still, every muscle tensing as his mind processes the implications. In their 5 years together, Keisha has faced discrimination, microaggressions, and institutional barriers, but physical violence represents a line that transforms his response from economic pressure to something far more personal and permanent. "Where? Who?" His voice carries the deadly calm that his enemies have learned to fear. "Gucci, Beverly Hills. The manager, Brad something. I'm fine, the baby's fine, but..." Keisha's voice carries controlled anger rather than fear, which somehow makes Marcus's rage burn hotter. She shouldn't have to maintain composure after being assaulted. She shouldn't have to manage his emotional response while dealing with her own trauma. "I'm fine, baby's fine. Just thought you should know." Marcus closes his eyes, visualizing Keisha 7 months pregnant, trying to shop for their charity gala, encountering the kind of prejudice that his wealth and power are supposed to shield her from. The image of someone striking his pregnant wife triggers something primitive in his chest, a protective fury that threatens to override his strategic thinking. "I'll handle it. Go home, now." He hangs up and immediately begins typing commands into his computer system. Within seconds, his screen fills with information about Brad Michael Thornton, age 38, Beverly Hills resident, Gucci employee for 8 years. Social security number, credit history, employment records, family background. The digital trail that defines a modern life spreads across his monitors like an X-ray revealing every vulnerable organ. Marcus reaches for his secure phone line, the encrypted device that connects him to a network of financial operatives who execute his instructions without questions or moral reservations. These are not criminals in the traditional sense, but specialists who understand that wealth, properly applied, can accomplish anything that violence or intimidation might achieve, with far less risk and infinitely more precision. "Jimmy, I need a complete workup on someone, everything." He reads Brad's information while his fingers continue typing, accessing databases that most law enforcement agencies cannot penetrate. Financial records, employment history, family assets, debt obligations, insurance policies, investment accounts. I want to know where every dollar came from and where it's going. The response comes back within minutes. Brad Thornton earns $68,000 annually plus commission, maintains a modest investment portfolio, carries standard debt loads for someone his age and income level. His parents own property in Pasadena worth approximately $800,000. His sister works in marketing. His ex-wife received a small settlement 3 years ago. A perfectly ordinary financial profile belonging to someone who has just made an extraordinarily dangerous enemy. Marcus opens a new application that connects him to currency markets operating beyond traditional regulatory oversight. His fingers move across the keyboard with surgical precision, initiating a sequence of events that will unfold over the coming hours like dominoes arranged by a master strategist. Brad Thornton's world will collapse not through dramatic gestures, but through the methodical application of economic pressure at every vulnerable point in his life. The first strike targets Brad's credit score. A few keystrokes trigger algorithmic trading patterns that create artificial debt obligations, phantom charges that will appear on his credit report as legitimate financial commitments. His score will drop by 200 points within the hour, automatically triggering review clauses in his existing loan agreements. Next, Marcus accesses real estate databases to identify Brad's apartment building ownership structure. The property belongs to a holding company that relies on commercial loans from 3 different banks. Marcus owns significant stakes in 2 of those banks and maintains leverage over the third through cryptocurrency holdings that serve as collateral for major investment positions. A few strategic conversations will create irregularities in the building's financing that require immediate tenant relocations. His personal phone buzzes with a text from Keisha. "Home safe. Love you." The message provides temporary relief, confirming she's out of immediate danger, but also refocuses his attention on the systematic destruction he's orchestrating. This isn't about revenge. It's about ensuring that Brad Thornton's actions have consequences proportional to their moral gravity. Someone who would strike a pregnant woman lacks the judgment to manage other people's property or represent luxury brands. Marcus opens communication channels to 3 different private investigation firms, companies that specialize in corporate due diligence and background verification. By evening, they'll have compiled comprehensive reports on Brad's professional history, identifying any pattern of discriminatory behavior that could support legal action or corporate intervention. His final call goes to Patricia Hayes, Gucci's regional director. Marcus has never met Patricia personally, but his firm manages pension funds for several luxury retail companies, and his political donations have supported trade policies that benefit their international operations. These connections create leverage that operates below the level of obvious corruption while ensuring his concerns receive immediate attention. "Patricia, this is Marcus Washington. I believe we have mutual friends in the luxury retail space." The conversation lasts exactly 3 minutes. Marcus explains that his pregnant wife was assaulted at the Beverly Hills location by a manager named Brad Thornton. He doesn't make threats or demands. He simply provides information and expresses his disappointment that such incidents reflect poorly on brands he's financially connected to through various investment vehicles. Patricia's response is immediate and decisive. She'll launch an internal investigation within hours, review security footage, interview witnesses, and take appropriate action to protect both the customer and the company's reputation. She understands that incidents involving pregnant women create liability exposure that no luxury brand can afford to ignore. Marcus hangs up and leans back in his chair, watching numbers continue flowing across his screens. The financial mechanisms he's set in motion will operate with mathematical precision, each component designed to create maximum impact while maintaining plausible deniability. Brad Thornton struck his wife, but the consequences will appear to emerge from market forces and corporate policies rather than personal retaliation. His intercom buzzes. "Mr. Washington, your wife is on line 1. Marcus switches to his personal line, his voice immediately softening. "How are you feeling?" "Tired. Angry, but okay." Keisha's voice carries the exhaustion of someone who has spent too much energy dealing with other people's prejudices. "Did you do what I think you did?" Marcus smiles for the first time since her call. I have no idea what you're talking about. I've been analyzing market trends all afternoon. The lie contains enough truth to be technically accurate while acknowledging the understanding that exists between them. Keisha knows his capabilities, understands the resources at his disposal, recognizes that certain problems simply disappear when they threaten her safety or dignity. Outside his office windows, Los Angeles spreads beneath him like a circuit board, millions of individual lives connected by invisible networks of money, power, and consequence. Somewhere in that vast grid, Brad Thornton's carefully constructed existence is beginning to unravel, one algorithmic adjustment at a time. The phone call that changed everything is complete, but its effects are just beginning to ripple outward through systems that Brad could never have imagined might be connected to a simple retail transaction gone wrong. The first video appears on TikTok at 2:47 p.m., uploaded by 18-year-old Madison Carter, who was window shopping with friends when she witnessed the confrontation through Gucci's floor-to-ceiling windows. The 30-second clip captures the moment of impact, Brad's hand striking Keisha's face, her stunned reaction, the frozen silence that follows. Madison's caption reads, OMG, this manager just slapped a pregnant black woman at Gucci Beverly Hills #justice #Gucci Beverly Hills #pregnant and attacked. Within 17 minutes, the video accumulated 4,000 views. The algorithm recognizes engagement patterns that indicate viral potential. Rapid sharing, emotional comments, the kind of moral outrage that transforms casual scrollers into active participants. TikTok's recommendation engine begins pushing the content to users who engage with social justice topics, luxury retail content, and pregnancy-related material. Sarah Carter, Brad's assistant manager and Madison's older sister, receives a frantic text at 3:15 p.m. Sarah, is this your store? This is everywhere right now. The attached link leads to her sister's video, now approaching 50,000 views and climbing exponentially. Sarah's stomach drops as she recognizes the confrontation she witnessed but was powerless to prevent. Her position in the hierarchy kept her silent during the incident, but now the silence feels like complicity. The video spawns immediate remixes and response content. User at Justice for All creates a split-screen comparison showing differential treatment of customers, contrasting footage of Brad's deferential service to wealthy white customers with his aggressive confrontation with Keisha. The stark visual evidence removes any ambiguity about discriminatory behavior patterns. Instagram picks up the story through cross-platform sharing. Influencer at Luxury Lifestyle, with 2.3 million followers, reposts the video with commentary. This is exactly why representation matters in luxury retail. How many women have experienced this but didn't have it recorded? #Gucci accountability #luxury for all. Her amplification introduces the story to demographics beyond TikTok's primary user base, reaching affluent consumers who represent Gucci's core customer demographic. Twitter's trending algorithm identifies #Gucci Beverly Hills as rapidly ascending toward nationwide visibility. The hashtag generates 17,000 tweets in the first hour, with engagement patterns indicating sustained rather than temporary interest. Celebrity accounts begin engaging with the content, adding their platform's reach to the growing digital storm. Actress and activist Zendaya tweets at 4:22 p.m. Pregnant women deserve safety and respect, not violence, period. At Gucci, what are you doing about this? Her 47 million followers receive immediate notification, transforming the incident from viral content into mainstream news material. The Beverly Hills Police Department's social media monitoring system flags the incident at 4:45 p.m. Sergeant Martinez, responsible for public relations, watches the TikTok video 3 times before initiating department protocol for high-visibility incidents. The footage clearly shows assault against a pregnant woman, creating legal obligations regardless of the viral attention. He begins drafting incident reports while coordinating with patrol units to visit the Gucci location. Gucci's corporate crisis management team assembles in their New York headquarters conference room at 5 p.m. Eastern Time. Chief Marketing Officer Elena Rodriguez reviews the rapidly spreading content, while Communications Director Michael Torres tracks engagement metrics that paint an increasingly dire picture. The incident represents every luxury brand's nightmare. explicit discrimination caught on camera, shared by millions, amplified by celebrity voices that can damage reputation and sales. We're looking at potential boycotts from our highest value demographics, Rodriguez reports, scrolling through comments from verified accounts representing significant purchasing power. The pregnancy angle makes this particularly toxic. No brand recovers easily from images of employees attacking pregnant customers. Regional Director Patricia Hayes joins the crisis call from Los Angeles, having already received Marcus Washington's carefully worded phone call expressing his disappointment with the Beverly Hills location's service standards. She doesn't mention Marcus's identity or the financial leverage he represents, but she emphasizes the severity of the situation and the need for immediate decisive action. "I've reviewed the security footage," Patricia reports. "The customer remained professional throughout the interaction. Our manager escalated without justification and ultimately committed assault. We have no defensible position here." Meanwhile, the digital storm continues expanding across platforms. Reddit's public freakout thread about the incident generated 12,000 comments within 2 hours, with users conducting amateur investigations into Brad's background, employment history, and social media presence. The crowdsourced research reveals previous customer complaints about discriminatory treatment, creating a pattern that transforms an isolated incident into evidence of systemic problems. YouTube content creators begin producing reaction videos, analysis pieces, and commentary that extends the story's life cycle beyond the typical 24-hour viral cycle. At Social Justice Daily releases a 15-minute breakdown titled "The Psychology of Retail Racism: Why Luxury Stores Enable Discrimination," which accumulated 300,000 views by evening. Local Los Angeles news stations pick up the story for their 6 p.m. broadcasts. KTLA leads with "Pregnant Woman Assaulted at Beverly Hills Gucci Store," featuring the TikTok footage alongside interviews with retail discrimination attorneys who explain the legal implications. The transition from social media content to traditional news coverage legitimizes the incident and expands its reach to demographics less active on digital platforms. Brad Thornton remains unaware of the digital storm until 6:30 p.m., when his phone begins receiving notifications from friends and family members who've seen the viral content. His personal Facebook account, Instagram profile, and LinkedIn presence become targets for users seeking to express their outrage directly. The comments range from angry but civil criticism to explicit threats that force him to make his profiles private. His apartment buzzer rings repeatedly as local news crews arrive seeking statements. Through his window, Brad can see reporters setting up cameras on the sidewalk, transforming his modest building into a media staging area. Neighbors emerge to investigate the commotion, some recognizing him from news footage and pointing in his direction. Patricia Hayes' investigation moves swiftly once corporate priorities become clear. Security footage review confirms the TikTok video's accuracy while revealing additional context that makes Brad's behavior appear even more indefensible. The complete recording shows his pattern of differential customer treatment, his escalating aggression, and his colleague Sarah's obvious discomfort with his actions. At 7:15 p.m., Gucci released a preliminary statement through their official social media accounts. "We are aware of the disturbing incident at our Beverly Hills location and are conducting a full investigation. The behavior shown in the video does not reflect our values or standards. We are committed to providing respectful service to all customers and will take appropriate action based on our findings." The corporate response generates immediate backlash from users who interpret the measured language as insufficient given the video evidence. Comments demand immediate termination, policy changes, and personal accountability from corporate leadership. The carefully crafted PR statement fails to contain the growing anger and actually amplifies criticism by appearing to minimize the severity of assaulting a pregnant customer. Stock market impact becomes visible in after-hours trading as Kering SA, Gucci's parent company, drops 2.3% on higher than normal volume. Institutional investors recognize that luxury brands depend on aspirational marketing and inclusive imagery that the viral video directly contradicts. The financial consequences extend beyond immediate reputation damage to longer-term concerns about brand positioning and market share. Celebrity boycott announcements begin appearing on Instagram stories and Twitter posts. Rapper Cardi B, pregnant herself, posts a video message, Any brand that lets their employees put hands on pregnant women don't deserve our money. Period. Her announcement triggers additional celebrity responses, creating a cascade effect that threatens to transform individual outrage into organized economic pressure. By 9 p.m. Pacific Time, #Gucci boycott joins #Gucci Beverly Hills as a trending topic, with users sharing screenshots of deleted shopping apps, canceled orders, and returned merchandise. The economic impact extends beyond individual purchasing decisions to influence corporate partnerships, celebrity endorsements, and retail relationships that represent millions in annual revenue. Local protest organization Beverly Hills Justice Coalition announces a demonstration outside the Gucci store for the following morning, coordinated through social media channels that have sustained engagement throughout the evening. The protest planning generates additional content and hashtags that maintain the story's momentum while creating opportunities for continued media coverage. Sarah Carter makes the decision that will define her own professional future. At 9:30 p.m., she posted a detailed Instagram statement describing her witness experience, confirming the video's accuracy and apologizing for her inability to intervene effectively during the incident. Her insider perspective provides credibility that amplifies the story's impact while protecting her own professional reputation through early cooperation with the developing investigation. The digital wildfire has transformed a single incident of retail discrimination into a multimedia crisis that threatens corporate reputation, individual careers, and broader conversations about systemic racism in luxury retail. What began as one woman's shopping experience has become a catalyst for examining institutional barriers that persist despite decades of diversity initiatives and corporate sensitivity training. As midnight approaches, the viral content shows no signs of diminishing. International media outlets begin covering the story, expanding its reach beyond American social media platforms to global audiences who view the incident as representative of broader American social problems. The digital amplification has created consequences that will extend far beyond the original 30 seconds captured on a teenager's phone camera. The wildfire burns through the night, consuming reputations, careers, and carefully constructed corporate messaging while generating conversations about power, privilege, and the responsibility that comes with serving diverse customers in an increasingly connected world. Marcus Washington's War Room operates with the precision of a NASA Mission Control Center. 3 additional financial analysts have joined him in the secure conference room adjacent to his office, their laptops connecting to encrypted networks that bypass traditional banking oversight. The room's windows are polarized to prevent surveillance, and white noise generators mask conversations from any potential electronic eavesdropping. This level of operational security reflects the scope of what Marcus is about to unleash upon Brad Thornton's carefully constructed middle-class existence. Dr. Jennifer Kim, his chief algorithmic strategist, pulls up Brad Thornton's complete financial profile on the main display screen. The data represents 8 years of painstaking digital archaeology. Every credit application, every loan payment, every investment transaction, every insurance claim, every employment verification that has defined Brad's economic existence. What emerges is a picture of carefully managed mediocrity. Someone living paycheck to paycheck despite appearing financially stable, vulnerable to any significant disruption in his cash flow or credit access. Standard middle-class debt structure, Dr. Kim reports, highlighting key vulnerabilities in red across the sprawling financial map. Mortgage with 18% equity, 3 credit cards with rotating balances totaling $47,000, car loan with 31 months remaining at 6.9% interest. Total debt-to-income ratio of 42%, which means he's operating within acceptable parameters but has minimal cushion for unexpected expenses or income disruption. Marcus studies the numbers with the cold calculation of a predator analyzing prey. Brad's financial stability depends entirely on maintaining his current income while servicing existing obligations according to predetermined schedules. Any significant increase in expenses or decrease in earnings will create a cascade effect that traditional financial institutions are programmed to exploit through penalty fees, interest rate adjustments, and accelerated payment demands that can destroy financial stability within weeks. What about family money? Marcus asks, remembering Brad's confident demeanor despite his modest income and the entitlement that suggested inherited rather than earned privilege. Dr. Kim switches to a secondary screen displaying the Thornton family's generational wealth analysis, compiled through property records, tax assessments, probate filings, and corporate ownership databases. Parents own property in Pasadena valued at $800,000, but it's leveraged through a home equity line of credit that they've been drawing against for the last 3 years to maintain lifestyle standards. Sister's marketing job provides stable but not exceptional income. Grandmother's trust fund was depleted in 2019 to cover medical expenses. The family presents well but operates on tight margins with declining assets. The revelation satisfies Marcus's understanding of class dynamics in Los Angeles. The Thorntons represent old California money that has been diluted across generations, maintaining social appearances while struggling with the economic realities of inherited property taxes, maintenance costs, and lifestyle expectations that exceed actual earning capacity. They possess the arrogance of wealth without its current reality. Begin with credit disruption, Marcus instructs, his voice carrying the quiet authority of someone accustomed to moving millions with simple commands. I want his credit score to drop below 500 within 4 hours through legitimate algorithmic adjustments. The strategy relies on exploiting algorithmic vulnerabilities in credit reporting systems that prioritize automation over human verification. Dr. Kim initiates a series of phantom transactions that appear as legitimate debt obligations, utility deposits for addresses Brad has never visited, insurance policies for vehicles he doesn't own, subscription services that his digital profile suggests he might purchase, medical payment plans for procedures his insurance should have covered. Each transaction is small enough to avoid triggering fraud detection systems, but collectively large enough to exceed his available credit limits and create cascading penalty assessments. Marcus's second analyst, Robert Torres, focuses on Brad's employment stability through corporate intelligence networks that monitor luxury retail industry personnel decisions. Gucci Corporate is already conducting an internal investigation based on the viral video. Our research indicates they have zero-tolerance policies for employee discrimination, especially when it creates legal liability and threatens brand reputation in international markets. Accelerate their timeline, Marcus orders. I want the corporation to have comprehensive documentation of Brad's pattern of discriminatory behavior by tomorrow morning, presented in a format that supports immediate termination and potential criminal referral. The documentation already exists in customer complaint databases, employee incident reports, and security footage that Robert's team has systematically accessed through corporate data breaches that occurred months earlier during routine business intelligence gathering. The information wasn't gathered specifically to target Brad. It represents part of Marcus's broader intelligence network that monitors potential business partners, investment targets, and market competitors for due diligence purposes. Brad's profile existed in these databases as background noise until today's events elevated him to active threat status requiring immediate neutralization. Marcus's phone buzzes with encrypted updates from his private investigation teams. 3 separate firms are conducting parallel research into Brad's professional history, personal relationships, financial obligations, legal vulnerabilities, and behavioral patterns that might support civil or criminal proceedings. The reports reveal a pattern of escalating aggressive behavior over the past 2 years, coinciding with increased pressure from corporate management and his deteriorating chances for promotion to regional positions. He's been written up twice for customer service issues in the last 18 months, reports Diana Walsh, his head of strategic intelligence and former FBI financial crimes investigator. Both incidents involved minority customers who complained about differential treatment, condescending language, and what they characterized as deliberate obstacles to completing purchases. HR documented the complaints but didn't pursue discipline beyond verbal counseling and mandatory sensitivity training that Brad completed with minimal engagement. This information provides legal ammunition for potential civil rights lawsuits, while demonstrating to corporate investigators that Brad represents ongoing liability rather than an isolated incident. Marcus forwards the documentation to Patricia Hayes through channels that make it appear as if concerned customers or employees provided the information rather than professional investigators, maintaining plausible deniability while ensuring maximum impact. The next phase targets Brad's housing stability through real estate market manipulation that will appear entirely coincidental. Marcus accesses property ownership records for Brad's apartment building, discovering that it's owned by Meridian Properties, a real estate investment trust that manages 47 buildings across Los Angeles County and maintains a conservative tenant screening policy designed to minimize liability exposure. Marcus's hedge fund owns preferred shares in Meridian Properties, purchased 2 years earlier as part of a diversified real estate portfolio that provides voting rights and board representation. A phone call to Meridian's CEO takes exactly 90 seconds and focuses on risk management rather than personal vendettas. Marcus doesn't mention Brad specifically. Instead, he expresses concern about the company's tenant screening procedures and suggests that enhanced background checks might prevent residents whose behavior could create liability exposure for property owners. He mentions having seen news coverage about retail employees involved in discrimination incidents and wonders whether such individuals represent acceptable tenancy risks given potential civil lawsuits, media attention, and the possibility of protests or demonstrations that could disrupt other tenants. The conversation plants seeds that will germinate into policy changes requiring additional tenant documentation, credit verification, criminal background checks, and behavioral assessments for all lease renewals. Brad's lease renewal application, due in 6 weeks, will face scrutiny that his deteriorating credit score, emerging legal problems, and viral notoriety cannot possibly survive. Marcus's cryptocurrency operations provide additional leverage through their connections to Brad's banking relationships and the broader financial services ecosystem. The First National Bank of Beverly Hills, where Brad maintains his primary checking account, processes settlement payments for several cryptocurrency exchanges that Marcus controls through shell companies incorporated in jurisdictions with favorable financial privacy laws. A few strategic transactions create artificial volatility in their crypto settlement accounts, forcing the bank to implement enhanced fraud monitoring protocols that automatically flag accounts showing unusual activity patterns. The banking industry's automated risk assessment systems interpret the combined signals: declining credit score, viral media attention, potential legal exposure, cryptocurrency-related transaction anomalies, as indicators of money laundering or fraud potential that require immediate investigation. Brad's accounts are automatically flagged for enhanced monitoring that will freeze transactions above $500 pending manual review, create holds on direct deposits until source verification is completed, and require in-person identity confirmation for any significant banking activities. The restrictions will make it nearly impossible for him to access his own money while appearing to result from legitimate anti-fraud protocols. Dr. Kim provides real-time updates on the credit destruction campaign as algorithms continue working through the night. His FICO score has dropped to 547 as of 11 p.m. The algorithmic trading patterns we've implemented will continue generating negative credit events throughout the night as phantom obligations are reported to credit bureaus. By morning, he'll be below 480, which triggers automatic reviews of all his existing credit facilities and potential immediate payment demands. The mortgage company's automated systems will receive notification of Brad's credit score decline at 6 a.m. through industry-standard credit monitoring services, initiating a mandatory financial review process that requires updated employment verification, income documentation, asset statements, and potentially immediate payment of outstanding balances if his financial stability appears compromised. The car loan company will implement similar protocols, while his credit card companies adjust his available limits to reflect increased default risk, potentially reducing his available credit to zero. Marcus opens secure communication channels with 3 different law firms that specialize in civil rights litigation and have track records of successful discrimination settlements against major corporations. He doesn't provide specific case details. Instead, he mentions having learned about a potential discrimination incident involving a pregnant client and suggests that the firms might want to conduct proactive outreach to ensure the victim receives appropriate legal representation for what could be a significant federal civil rights case. The lawyers recognize the opportunity presented by a viral discrimination incident with clear video evidence, sympathetic victim, corporate defendant with deep pockets, and media attention that will pressure settlement negotiations. Within hours, they'll be contacting Keisha with offers of free legal consultation, transforming what might have remained a personal grievance into a federal civil rights lawsuit with potential for significant monetary damages and systemic policy changes. Robert Torres reports progress on corporate pressure campaigns designed to ensure Brad's termination occurs in the most damaging possible manner. Patricia Hayes has scheduled an emergency meeting with Gucci's legal department for 8 a.m. tomorrow. The documentation we've provided gives them grounds for immediate termination and potential criminal referral to local prosecutors for assault charges. The termination seems inevitable, but Marcus wants to ensure that Brad's employment ends in a way that maximizes future legal and financial consequences. Make sure they understand the importance of documenting everything properly for potential litigation support. They need to create records that show Brad was a known problem employee whose behavior was inadequately addressed. His instruction ensures that Brad's personnel file will contain detailed records of policy violations, customer complaints, and behavioral patterns that support civil rights claims, while protecting Gucci from accusations of inadequate supervision or training. The documentation transforms Brad from a former employee into a liability that the company will aggressively distance itself from through cooperation with any legal proceedings. The insurance dimension of Marcus's strategy targets Brad's personal liability coverage through industry databases that track high-risk individuals and automatically adjust coverage terms. Auto insurance companies regularly review customer profiles for behavior that indicates increased risk exposure. The viral video of Brad assaulting a pregnant customer represents exactly the kind of liability indicator that triggers policy review and potential cancellation. Marcus's team generates insurance industry reports that flag Brad as a high-risk customer based on publicly available information about his involvement in a discrimination incident. The reports suggest that individuals who engage in aggressive behavior toward vulnerable populations represent elevated liability for auto insurance claims, property damage, and personal injury lawsuits that could cost insurers millions in settlements. By 1 a.m., the financial earthquake has generated visible tremors throughout Brad's economic ecosystem. His credit cards show declined transactions when he attempts to order dinner delivery. His bank accounts reflect fraud monitoring delays that prevent ATM access, and his mortgage company has initiated preliminary discussions about payment acceleration clauses that could demand immediate payment of his remaining loan balance. Marcus reviews the evening's work with quiet satisfaction while monitoring social media coverage that continues amplifying the incident's impact. Brad Thornton struck his pregnant wife, but the consequences will unfold through legal and financial channels that create permanent records and lasting accountability. Unlike physical retaliation, economic warfare leaves paper trails that support legitimate legal proceedings while ensuring that Brad's actions follow him indefinitely through credit reports, employment background checks, and legal databases. Phase 2 begins tomorrow morning. Marcus announces to his team as they prepare to continue monitoring overnight algorithmic operations. I want real estate transactions, employment opportunities, and business relationships to become increasingly unavailable to Mr. Thornton. Nothing illegal, nothing directly traceable, just the natural consequences of being identified as someone who assaults pregnant women. The strategy recognizes that modern accountability operates through interconnected systems of credit, employment, housing, and social networking that can isolate individuals more effectively than traditional punishment while maintaining legal and ethical boundaries. Brad's viral notoriety will make him unemployable in luxury retail, uninsurable for personal liability, and unrentable in any property managed by companies concerned about tenant behavior and potential legal exposure. As Marcus finally leaves his office at 2 a.m., Brad Thornton's carefully constructed middle-class existence is dissolving through algorithmic adjustments and systematic pressure that will accelerate exponentially throughout the following day. The financial earthquake has only just begun, and its aftershocks will continue reshaping Brad's reality until he understands the true cost of putting his hands on someone who turned out to possess resources he never imagined possible. The war room's computers continue operating through the night, executing trades and generating reports that transform personal justice into market forces, ensuring that tomorrow will bring consequences that no amount of apology or corporate damage control can possibly reverse. The Beverly Hills Police Department receives the first formal complaint at 6:23 a.m. when Detective Sarah Mills arrives to find 17 voicemails demanding investigation into the assault captured on viral video. Detective Mills, a 15-year veteran specializing in hate crimes and civil rights violations, reviews the TikTok footage while sipping coffee that has already gone cold. The evidence is unambiguous. A retail manager striking a pregnant customer requires immediate investigation regardless of the social media attention. She drives to Gucci Beverly Hills at 7:45 a.m., arriving before the store opens to find 3 news vans already positioned across the street. The reporters recognize the significance of police involvement, transforming what began as viral outrage into a criminal investigation with potential federal civil rights implications. Detective Mills notes the security cameras positioned throughout the store's exterior and interior, recognizing that comprehensive video evidence will either corroborate or contradict the social media footage. Patricia Hayes arrives 30 minutes early for her emergency meeting with corporate legal, her stomach churning as she reviews the documentation that mysteriously appeared in her inbox overnight. The files contain customer complaint records spanning 18 months, employee incident reports she doesn't remember seeing, and behavioral pattern analysis that paints Brad Thornton as a systematic discriminator rather than someone who made a single poor decision. The legal team's conference call begins at 8 a.m. sharp with participants from New York headquarters, Los Angeles regional office, and external counsel specializing in employment law and civil rights litigation. Chief Legal Officer Margaret Foster reviews the overnight developments with growing alarm. Viral video with millions of views, celebrity boycott announcements, police investigation initiated, and documentation suggesting the company failed to address known discriminatory behavior. "We're looking at potential liability in multiple jurisdictions," Foster explains to the assembled team. "Federal civil rights violations, state assault charges, employment discrimination claims, and possible negligent supervision if we can demonstrate that management knew about his behavior patterns and failed to take corrective action." Patricia presents the overnight documentation with carefully neutral language that doesn't reveal her suspicions about its convenient timing and comprehensive nature. "These records suggest Mr. Thornton has been written up for customer service issues involving minority customers, but the corrective actions were limited to verbal counseling and mandatory training that apparently didn't modify his behavior." The legal team recognizes the trap they're facing. Inadequate documentation makes them appear negligent, but comprehensive records suggest they knew about problems and failed to prevent escalation. Either position creates liability exposure that threatens both financial settlements and regulatory sanctions from employment enforcement agencies. Meanwhile, Brad Thornton's morning begins with a series of financial catastrophes that seem unrelated but collectively create an impossible situation. His mortgage company calls at 7:15 a.m. requesting immediate employment verification due to irregularities in his credit profile. His car loan servicer follows at 7:32 a.m. with similar demands. By 8 a.m., all 3 of his credit cards have been suspended pending fraud investigation. His bank account shows a hold on his direct deposit pending source verification, effectively freezing his access to the paycheck he received 2 days earlier. The automated customer service system provides no explanation beyond enhanced security protocols, and transfers him to fraud prevention specialists who aren't available until business hours. Sarah Carter, Brad's assistant manager, arrives at work to find Detective Mills waiting in the parking lot. The detective's questions focus on witness testimony about the previous day's incident, but Sarah recognizes that her responses will determine both the investigation's direction and her own professional survival. She provides a detailed, honest account that confirms the viral video's accuracy while emphasizing her attempts to de-escalate the situation. "Mr. Thornton became increasingly agitated throughout the interaction," Sarah explains, choosing her words carefully. "The customer remained professional and calm, but he seemed to interpret her composure as defiance or disrespect. When she tried to leave, he blocked her path and became physical." Detective Mills records the interview while noting Sarah's obvious discomfort with defending her supervisor's behavior. The assistant manager's testimony provides corroboration that transforms the incident from a he said, she said dispute into documented assault with credible witness verification. Corporate investigators arrive at 9 a.m. to conduct their internal review while the store remains closed to customers. Security footage from 12 different camera angles provides comprehensive documentation of the entire incident, revealing details that the viral video couldn't capture. The complete recording shows Brad's pattern of differential treatment, his escalating aggression, and the clear racial dynamics that influenced his behavior. The investigators discover additional footage from the previous week showing similar patterns. Subtle but unmistakable differences in how Brad interacts with customers based on their apparent race, age, and perceived economic status. The evidence suggests systematic discrimination rather than an isolated incident, strengthening potential civil rights claims while undermining any corporate defense based on employee training or policy enforcement. Brad's attempts to reach Patricia Hayes go directly to voicemail as corporate damage control protocols isolate him from decision-making processes. His union representative, contacted for emergency consultation, reviews the viral video and advises immediate resignation rather than fighting termination. The evidence is too clear, the public attention too intense, and the legal exposure too significant for any realistic defense strategy. Private investigation reports commissioned by Marcus's team begin reaching their intended recipients through carefully orchestrated channels. Employment attorneys receive comprehensive documentation of Brad's discriminatory behavior patterns. Civil rights organizations obtain copies of customer complaints that were inadequately addressed. Local prosecutors receive legal analysis suggesting federal hate crime charges might be appropriate given the assault's racial dynamics. The financial pressures intensify throughout the morning as algorithmic systems continue generating negative credit events. Brad's car insurance company initiates policy review based on behavioral risk indicators that could result in coverage cancellation. His renter's insurance follows similar protocols. His cell phone carrier flags his account for payment review after his automatic payment method is declined due to banking holds. Keisha Washington meets with civil rights attorney David Carter at 10 a.m. in his Century City office overlooking the same Beverly Hills corridor where yesterday's incident occurred. Attorney Carter has reviewed the viral video, investigated Brad's background, and researched Gucci's corporate policies regarding customer service and discrimination prevention. His preliminary assessment suggests significant damages, potential, and strong likelihood of successful federal civil rights litigation. The video evidence is unambiguous, Carter explains while reviewing legal precedents displayed on his conference room screens. Assault of a pregnant woman, clear racial dynamics, corporate entity with deep pockets and reputation concerns. The challenge will be demonstrating that this represents systematic discrimination rather than individual misconduct. The legal strategy focuses on pattern evidence that transforms Brad's behavior from isolated incident into institutional failure. Carter's team has already identified similar complaints against other luxury retailers, suggesting industry-wide discrimination problems that federal enforcement agencies might want to address through comprehensive settlements and court-supervised policy changes. Corporate headquarters reaches the inevitable conclusion by 11 a.m. Brad Thornton's employment must be terminated immediately to limit legal exposure and demonstrate corporate accountability. The termination package includes comprehensive documentation of policy violations, witness statements, and security footage that will support cooperation with any criminal investigation while protecting the company from negligent supervision claims. Patricia Hayes delivers the termination notification via phone call that lasts exactly 3 minutes. Brad's corporate access is revoked immediately. His final paycheck will be mailed within 48 hours, and any company property must be returned within 24 hours. The conversation is recorded for legal documentation and includes specific language about cooperation with ongoing investigations. Brad's response shifts from shock to anger to desperate negotiation attempts that reveal his growing understanding of the forces arrayed against him. This is about one incident, he argues. One mistake that got blown out of proportion by social media. I've been a loyal employee for 8 years. Mr. Thornton, The investigation has revealed a pattern of behavior that violates company policy and creates legal liability. Patricia responds with language approved by corporate legal. This decision is final and effective immediately. The termination triggers additional financial consequences through unemployment insurance complications, health insurance loss, and professional reference problems that will make future employment in retail management nearly impossible. Brad's LinkedIn profile shows immediate activity as recruiters and colleagues distance themselves from association with viral discrimination incidents. Local news coverage expands beyond the initial incident to examine broader patterns of discrimination in luxury retail, using Brad's case as a launching point for investigations into industry-wide practices. Reporter Amanda Foster interviews former employees of various Beverly Hills retailers who describe similar incidents involving minority customers and discriminatory service patterns that rarely receive public attention. The investigative reporting reveals that Brad's behavior wasn't exceptional within luxury retail culture, but his decision to escalate to physical violence crossed a line that most discriminatory employees avoid. The coverage suggests systematic problems requiring policy changes, enhanced training, and potentially regulatory oversight of luxury retail customer service practices. By noon, the unraveling is complete. Brad Thornton has lost his job, his financial stability, his professional reputation, and potentially his freedom if criminal charges are filed. The comprehensive nature of his downfall appears to result from market forces and institutional responses to viral accountability. But the speed and thoroughness suggest coordination that he cannot comprehend or counter. Detective Mills completes her preliminary investigation with recommendations for assault charges and potential hate crime enhancements based on the racial dynamics evident in the security footage. The case file will be forwarded to the district attorney's office for prosecution decisions, while federal investigators review potential civil rights violations that could result in additional charges. The viral video that started as customer outrage has evolved into comprehensive accountability through legal, financial, and professional channels that ensure lasting consequences. Brad's attempt to exert power over someone he perceived as vulnerable has resulted in the complete destruction of his own power and status, demonstrating that in an interconnected world, abuse of authority can trigger responses far beyond the original victim's ability to seek individual justice. The investigation's findings will be compiled into reports that support civil litigation, criminal prosecution, and corporate policy changes designed to prevent similar incidents. What began as one man's prejudice has become a case study in how viral accountability can transform isolated discrimination into institutional reform, ensuring that the consequences extend far beyond individual punishment to create systematic change. The unraveling is complete, but its implications will continue rippling through luxury retail industry practices, legal precedents, and social media accountability mechanisms that make abuse of power increasingly costly for those who believe their authority protects them from consequences. The Beverly Hills Hotel's Crystal Ballroom transforms into a media staging area by 9 a.m., its opulent chandeliers casting light on equipment that will broadcast Keisha Washington's first public statement since the viral incident. 47 journalists from local, national, and international outlets arrange cameras and recording equipment, while social media influencers stream live coverage to audiences that collectively number in the millions. The press conference represents a carefully orchestrated moment of accountability that will define the narrative for ongoing legal and social consequences. Keisha enters at precisely 10 a.m., 8 months pregnant now, her presence commanding immediate silence from the assembled media. She wears a navy blue dress that emphasizes her condition while projecting professional authority. Her appearance designed to remind viewers that the victim of Brad Thornton's assault was a vulnerable pregnant woman rather than a threatening adversary. Attorney David Carter flanks her left side, while a representative from the Beverly Hills NAACP stands to her right, creating visual symbolism that frames the incident within a broader civil rights context. "Good morning," Keisha begins, her voice carrying the calm authority that Brad Thornton so catastrophically misread 2 days earlier. "I'm here to address the incident at Gucci Beverly Hills. and to discuss what it reveals about systemic discrimination in luxury retail environments that affects countless customers who don't have access to the resources that enabled my response. Her opening statement immediately elevates the discussion beyond personal grievance to institutional analysis, positioning her as an advocate for broader change rather than someone seeking individual vindication. The strategic framing transforms media coverage from sensational celebrity drama into serious examination of discriminatory business practices that require policy solutions. Let me be clear about what happened, Keisha continues, activating a large screen that displays security footage from multiple camera angles. This wasn't a misunderstanding or a personality conflict. This was systematic discrimination that escalated to physical assault when I refused to accept differential treatment based on my appearance. The footage plays in slow motion, each angle revealing details that the original viral video couldn't capture. Brad's body language throughout the interaction demonstrates increasing agitation not with Keisha's behavior, but with her refusal to conform to his expectations about how someone of her perceived social status should respond to his authority. The comprehensive visual evidence removes any ambiguity about the incident's discriminatory nature. The security footage shows a 43-minute interaction in which I was subjected to barriers and verification requirements that other customers did not face, Keisha explains as the video highlights comparative interactions. When I produced valid identification and legitimate credit cards, additional obstacles were created. When I remained professional despite these barriers, the situation escalated to physical violence. Attorney Carter steps forward to address the legal dimensions that transform personal injury into federal civil rights violation. Our investigation has revealed that Mr. Thornton's behavior represents a pattern of discriminatory treatment spanning 18 months and affecting dozens of customers. This isn't an isolated incident, but evidence of institutional failure to address known discriminatory practices. The legal framing introduces documentation that Marcus's investigators compiled and strategically leaked to ensure maximum impact. Customer complaint records, employee witness statements, and behavioral pattern analysis paint Brad as a systematic discriminator whose actions violated federal civil rights laws while creating corporate liability for inadequate supervision and training. We've filed a federal civil rights lawsuit against both Mr. Thornton individually and Gucci Corporation, Carter announces, distributing legal documents to reporters who immediately begin photographing key passages. The suit seeks monetary damages, but more importantly, comprehensive policy changes that will prevent similar discrimination against future customers. The lawsuit demands extend beyond financial compensation to include mandatory bias training for all employees, enhanced corporate oversight of customer service interactions, and regular audits by independent civil rights organizations. These systemic changes represent the kind of institutional accountability that transforms individual incidents into industry-wide reform. Keisha resumes control of the narrative with personal testimony that humanizes the legal and policy discussions. I'm fortunate to have resources that enabled me to respond effectively to this discrimination, but I think about all the women who face similar treatment without the ability to demand accountability. Every customer deserves dignity and respect regardless of their appearance or perceived economic status. The statement positions her as advocate rather than victim, someone using privilege and resources to create change that benefits others who lack similar advantages. This strategic self-presentation generates sympathy while avoiding the perception that she's seeking special treatment or excessive compensation for personal injuries. Questions from reporters focus initially on the financial impact of Marcus's response, with several journalists asking about the apparent coordination between the viral incident and Brad's rapid economic collapse. Keisha navigates these inquiries with diplomatic language that acknowledges her husband's business capabilities without confirming specific retaliatory actions. My husband is a successful businessman who understands that markets respond to reputation and risk assessment. She responds to direct questions about Brad's financial difficulties. When someone's behavior creates legal liability and public relations problems, financial institutions and employers naturally reassess their relationships with that individual. The response provides plausible deniability while acknowledging the systematic nature of Brad's downfall. Keisha's language suggests that Brad's consequences result from market forces and institutional policies rather than personal vendetta, maintaining legal and ethical boundaries while confirming that powerful people face accountability when they abuse vulnerable individuals. Representative Maria Gonzalez from the Beverly Hills NAACP addresses the broader social implications that extend beyond individual legal proceedings. This incident demonstrates how discrimination persists in environments that profit from claims of luxury and exclusivity. When maintaining standards becomes code for racial gatekeeping, we need federal intervention to protect civil rights. The civil rights framing introduces policy solutions that could affect luxury retail practices nationwide. Proposed legislation would require federal oversight of customer service training, mandatory reporting of discrimination complaints, and financial penalties for businesses that fail to address systematic discriminatory behavior. Social media reaction to the press conference generates immediate trending topics that maintain public attention while shaping political pressure for legislative responses. #luxury accountability and #retail justice become platforms for customers to share their own experiences with discrimination in high-end retail environments, creating a crowdsourced database of incidents that support calls for systematic reform. Brad Thornton's attempted response appears on social media 30 minutes after the press conference concludes. A rambling video statement recorded in his apartment that reveals his complete failure to understand the forces he's confronting. His apology focuses on personal stress and corporate pressure while avoiding acknowledgement of the discriminatory behavior that created legal liability. "I want to apologize to Mrs. Washington for my unprofessional behavior," Brad says to his phone camera, his appearance suggesting someone who hasn't slept in 48 hours. "I was under a lot of pressure to meet sales targets, and I made a serious error in judgment that I deeply regret." The apology's inadequacy becomes immediately apparent through social media commentary that dissects every word for evidence of genuine remorse versus damage control. Brad's focus on his own pressure and stress while minimizing the discriminatory nature of his actions generates additional outrage rather than sympathy, demonstrating his continued failure to understand the moral and legal implications of his behavior. Corporate response from Gucci arrives simultaneously through carefully coordinated statements that distance the company from Brad's actions while announcing policy changes designed to prevent similar incidents. CEO Alessandro Michele personally addresses the media via video conference from Milan, his statement combining accountability with forward-looking reform commitments. "The behavior shown in this incident violates every principle that guides our company's relationship with customers," Michelle states, while flanked by diversity and inclusion executives. "We have terminated Mr. Thornton's employment and implemented enhanced training protocols that will ensure all customers receive respectful service regardless of their background or appearance." The corporate response includes specific policy changes that civil rights advocates demanded: mandatory bias training for all customer-facing employees, independent auditing of customer service interactions, and creation of customer advocacy positions within corporate management structure. These changes represent exactly the kind of institutional accountability that transforms individual incidents into systematic reform. Financial market reaction to the press conference demonstrates the economic impact of viral accountability on corporate reputation and stock performance. Kering SA, Gucci's parent company, continues declining in European markets, while analysts downgrade luxury retail stocks based on concerns about discrimination liability and potential boycott movements affecting the entire sector. Celebrity engagement amplifies the press conference's impact through social media platforms that reach demographics beyond traditional news consumption. Oprah Winfrey tweets support for Keisha's advocacy while announcing her intention to use her platform to examine discrimination in luxury retail environments. Rihanna posts Instagram stories showing her own experiences with differential treatment in high-end stores, adding her voice to calls for systematic change. The celebrity amplification transforms the press conference from news event into cultural moment that generates sustained attention and political pressure for legislative responses. Entertainment industry support provides mainstream legitimacy while maintaining focus on institutional rather than individual solutions. Legal experts appearing on cable news programs throughout the afternoon analyze the federal civil rights lawsuit's potential impact on luxury retail industry practices. Constitutional law professor Rebecca Martinez explains how successful litigation could establish precedents that require enhanced corporate oversight of customer service training and create financial incentives for preventing discriminatory behavior. This case represents exactly the kind of systematic discrimination that federal civil rights laws were designed to address, Martinez explains during a CNN interview. When companies profit from exclusivity while engaging in racial gatekeeping, federal intervention becomes necessary to protect constitutional rights. The academic analysis provides an intellectual framework for policy discussions while validating the legal strategy that positions individual discrimination within a broader constitutional and civil rights context. Legal scholarship supports the argument that luxury retail discrimination requires federal rather than state-level solutions. As evening approaches, the press conference's impact becomes measurable through social media engagement, news coverage, and corporate policy announcements that extend far beyond the original incident. Keisha's strategic presentation has transformed viral outrage into sustained accountability that generates legal, financial, and policy consequences extending throughout the luxury retail industry. The public reckoning demonstrates how individual incidents can catalyze systematic change when victims possess resources and platforms necessary to demand institutional accountability. Keisha's pregnancy initially made her vulnerable to Brad's aggression, but her subsequent response has created protection for countless future customers who will benefit from enhanced policies and federal oversight of discriminatory business practices. The press conference concludes with Keisha's final statement that positions current legal proceedings within the broader historical context of civil rights advocacy. Change happens when individuals refuse to accept discrimination as normal business practice. Today's accountability creates tomorrow's protection for everyone who believes that dignity and respect should be universal rather than privileges reserved for people who look a certain way or carry specific credit cards. The words resonate beyond immediate legal and policy implications to capture the moral transformation that viral accountability can generate when combined with strategic advocacy and institutional resources. What began as one woman's shopping experience has become a catalyst for examining and reforming discriminatory practices that affect millions of customers who deserve equal treatment regardless of their appearance or perceived economic status. 6 months later, the Beverly Hills morning sun casts long shadows across Rodeo Drive as shoppers begin their daily pilgrimage to luxury boutiques that now operate under federal oversight and enhanced civil rights protections. The street looks identical to casual observers, but institutional changes implemented after the Gucci incident have transformed the customer experience in ways both visible and subtle. Diversity training certificates hang in employee break rooms. Customer service interactions are monitored by independent auditors, and complaint resolution systems ensure that discrimination reports receive immediate corporate attention. Keisha Washington emerges from her Tesla Model S in the parking structure beneath Saks Fifth Avenue, her 3-month-old daughter sleeping peacefully in a carrier designed by engineers who understand both luxury and functionality. The baby's presence transforms Keisha's shopping experience from routine retail transaction into symbolic victory. She now navigates these spaces as both successful customer and protective mother, her very presence representing the changes that her advocacy generated. The Saks customer service team recognizes her immediately, not from viral video infamy but from corporate diversity training materials that use her story as a case study in respectful customer engagement. Store manager Jennifer Kim approaches with professional warmth that appears genuine rather than performative, her greeting acknowledging Keisha's preferences and shopping history without excessive deference or artificial enthusiasm. "Mrs. Washington, welcome back. How can we assist you today?" Jennifer's tone carries the respect that should have been standard practice all along, but required federal intervention and corporate policy changes to become universal across luxury retail environments. "I'm looking for something elegant for the Children's Hospital Charity Gala next month," Keisha responds, her request carrying echoes of the shopping trip that triggered systematic change throughout the luxury retail industry. Something that accommodates nursing while maintaining professional appearance. The interaction proceeds smoothly without verification requirements, credit checks, or artificial barriers that once characterized discriminatory customer service. Jennifer escorts Keisha through the store while providing detailed information about designers, fabrics, and alteration timelines, her service exemplifying the respectful treatment that corporate training programs now mandate for all customers, regardless of appearance or perceived economic status. Across the street, the Gucci Beverly Hills location operates under new management, following the comprehensive corporate restructuring that resulted from federal civil rights litigation. Brad Thornton's former position has been eliminated in favor of a team-based customer service model that prevents individual employees from wielding discriminatory authority over customer access to merchandise or services. The changes represent exactly the kind of institutional accountability that transforms individual incidents into systematic protection. Brad himself works at a discount electronics retailer in Van Nuys, his fall from luxury retail management to commission-based sales representing the natural consequences of viral accountability and systematic discrimination. His financial recovery remains incomplete despite 18 months of credit rehabilitation efforts. The algorithmic destruction of his economic foundation created permanent damage that continues affecting his housing options, insurance coverage, and employment opportunities. His modest apartment reflects the economic reality of someone whose discriminatory behavior generated consequences that extended far beyond immediate termination. The living space contains furniture from secondhand stores and electronics that represent practical necessity rather than aspirational consumption. Brad's transformation from gatekeeper of luxury goods to someone excluded from the economic circles he once policed demonstrates how quickly social hierarchies can reverse when individual authority exceeds institutional protection. The discrimination incident's legal resolution provided financial compensation that Keisha used to establish the Washington Foundation for Retail Justice, a nonprofit organization that monitors luxury retail practices and provides legal support for customers experiencing discriminatory treatment. The Foundation's Beverly Hills office occupies space 3 blocks from the original Gucci incident, its location serving as both practical headquarters and symbolic reminder that accountability mechanisms now exist where once only individual vulnerability prevailed. Foundation Director Dr. Angela Torres reviews monthly reports that document discrimination complaints, corporate compliance with federal oversight requirements, and the measurable improvement in customer service equity across luxury retail environments. The data confirms that systematic change is possible when individual incidents generate sustained institutional pressure rather than temporary public attention. Discrimination complaints are down 67% across monitored luxury retailers. Dr. Torres explains during her monthly presentation to foundation donors and civil rights advocates. More importantly, complaint resolution times have improved by 83%, suggesting that companies are taking discrimination reports seriously rather than dismissing them as isolated customer service issues. The Foundation's success demonstrates how strategic advocacy can transform viral moments into lasting institutional change. Keisha's response to Brad's discrimination created legal precedents, corporate policies, and federal oversight mechanisms that protect countless customers who lack the resources to demand individual accountability for discriminatory treatment. Marcus Washington continues operating his financial empire from the same Goldman Sachs Tower office where he orchestrated Brad's economic destruction, but his methods have evolved to focus on systematic rather than individual targets. His current project involves identifying luxury retailers with persistent discrimination patterns and creating economic pressure that encourages voluntary compliance with enhanced civil rights protections rather than waiting for viral incidents to force reactive changes. The couple's charitable activities now include annual galas that raise millions for organizations combating retail discrimination, educational inequality, and economic barriers that prevent equal access to quality goods and services. Their wealth, which once served primarily to insulate them from discrimination, now actively works to create systemic protection for others who face similar barriers based on race, gender, pregnancy status, or perceived economic position. This year's Children's Hospital Gala, scheduled for the Beverly Hills Hotel ballroom where Keisha held her press conference, will feature entertainment by artists who publicly supported the retail justice movement and speeches by civil rights leaders who used the Gucci incident as a launching point for broader discrimination reform efforts. The event represents both charitable fundraising and continued advocacy for the institutional changes that transformed individual trauma into collective protection. The baby in Keisha's arms represents hope for a generation that will grow up in retail environments where discriminatory treatment triggers immediate accountability, rather than requiring viral videos and federal lawsuits to generate basic respect. Her daughter will shop in stores where customer service training emphasizes dignity and equality rather than social gatekeeping and economic discrimination. As Keisha completes her purchase and prepares to leave Saks Fifth Avenue, she pauses to examine the customer service charter displayed prominently near the entrance. The document outlines specific commitments to respectful treatment, complaint resolution procedures, and federal oversight compliance that resulted directly from her advocacy following Brad's assault. The institutional changes represent victory not just for her individual case, but for every future customer who will benefit from enhanced protection against discriminatory business practices. Walking toward her car while carrying both shopping bags and her sleeping daughter, Keisha embodies the transformation that viral accountability can generate when combined with strategic advocacy and institutional resources. Her shopping trip, routine now but revolutionary in its normalcy, demonstrates how individual courage can create systematic change that extends far beyond personal vindication to generate lasting protection for vulnerable populations. The morning sun continues rising over Beverly Hills, illuminating streets where luxury retail now operates under federal oversight and enhanced civil rights protections. The changes are subtle but profound. Discrimination still exists, but it no longer operates with institutional impunity or individual immunity from consequences. In corporate boardrooms, customer service training programs emphasize dignity and respect as business imperatives rather than optional courtesies. In legal offices, civil rights attorneys monitor retail practices with tools and precedents that make discrimination increasingly costly for businesses that prioritize exclusivity over equality. In government agencies, federal oversight mechanisms ensure that luxury retail environments provide equal access to all customers regardless of their appearance or perceived economic status. The new dawn represents not the end of discrimination, but the beginning of systematic accountability that makes prejudicial treatment increasingly difficult to justify or sustain. What began with one man's violent assertion of social hierarchy has evolved into institutional transformation that protects countless individuals who deserve dignity and respect as fundamental rights rather than privileges reserved for customers who conform to arbitrary demographic expectations. Brad Thornton's moment of discriminatory violence created ripple effects that continue expanding through legal precedents, corporate policies, and social expectations that demand equality in environments where exclusivity once provided cover for systematic prejudice. The changes ensure that future incidents will face immediate accountability rather than requiring viral videos and federal litigation to generate basic respect for civil rights and human dignity. The story of Keisha Washington and Brad Thornton demonstrates how individual courage, combined with strategic resources and systematic advocacy, can transform moments of injustice into lasting institutional change. Every shopping trip, every customer interaction, every moment when dignity is respected or violated contributes to the ongoing struggle for equality in spaces where economic privilege intersects with social prejudice. The new dawn continues rising, illuminating possibilities for a world where luxury and respect are not mutually exclusive, where customer service means serving all customers equally, and where the consequences of discrimination extend far beyond individual incidents to create systematic protection for everyone who believes that dignity should be universal rather than conditional. What do you think about this transformation from individual injustice to systematic change? Have you experienced discrimination in retail environments? Share your thoughts in the comments below, and don't forget to subscribe to Black Tales Stories for more stories about justice, accountability, and the power of standing up against discrimination. Like this video if you believe that everyone deserves respect, regardless of their appearance, and share it with someone who needs to hear this message of hope and systematic change. Your engagement helps spread awareness about retail justice and supports continued advocacy for equal treatment in all customer service environments.